To become a lay Buddhist practitioner. To become a true lay Buddhist practitioner, one must first perfect oneself by taking refuge in the three jewels. 1. Buddha, the one who has completely awakened to the essence of the universe, encompassing both sentient and insentient beings, both worldly and transcendent phenomena, and both conditioned and unconditioned realities. 2. Dharma, the teachings that reflect the Buddha's enlightenment and provide methods for attaining liberation from suffering, leading to peace and the ultimate nirvana. 3. Sangha, the monastic community in harmonious unity and purity, the heirs of the Buddha's wisdom, who represent the Buddha in transmitting the true teachings so that all beings may attain enlightenment. After taking refuge in the three jewels, a lay Buddhist practitioner must aspire to achieve enlightenment just as the Buddhas have done, upholding the 5 precepts. Next, one must observe and not violate the precepts taken during the refuge ceremony. Do not kill any living being. Do not steal or take anything that is not given. Do not engage in sexual misconduct. Live a pure life, avoiding actions that disrupt one's own family's happiness or that of others, and fulfilling one's marital responsibilities faithfully. Do not lie or speak falsely. Do not consume intoxicating substances. Violating these precepts constitutes breaking the 3 types of karmic actions: bodily, verbal, and mental. Why is this so? Bodily actions include killing, stealing, and sexual misconduct. Verbal actions include lying, slander, harsh speech, and frivolous talk. Mental actions are directed by the mind, as the mind governs the body and speech, driven by greed, anger, and ignorance. Greed, anger, and ignorance are the 3 forces that fuel the ego, causing actions that lead to suffering. Therefore, a lay Buddhist who wishes to live a life of inner peace and purity must uphold these 5 precepts. Observing the precepts not only helps avoid harmful karmic actions that bind us to the cycle of birth and death, but also brings peace and benefit to others. The 6 causes of decline. The Buddha explains 6 causes that lead to the downfall of individuals and families: alcohol addiction, gambling, a life of aimless wandering and indulgence, idling at inappropriate times, obsession with entertainment and socializing, frequenting places of revelry, associating with bad company, laziness. The Buddha taught, furthermore, dear virtuous student, know that drinking alcohol has 6 harmful effects: loss of wealth, increased illness, prone to conflict, tarnished reputation, heightened anger, decline in wisdom. If a householder or their son cannot stop drinking, their family's fortune will gradually decline. Gambling also has 6 harms: gradual financial ruin. The winner creates enemies, scorn from the wise, loss of respect and trust, social isolation, the rise of a tendency to steal. If a householder or their son becomes addicted to gambling, their family's wealth will dissipate. Virtuous student, a life of indulgence has 6 faults: neglecting self-protection, neglecting the protection of property and possessions, failing to protect one's descendants, frequently living in fear, being bound by physical suffering, inclining toward deceitfulness. These are the 6 faults. If a wealthy person or their offspring continues to indulge without restraint, their wealth will diminish day by day. Virtuous student, an obsession with music and entertainment has 6 harms: seeking places of singing, seeking places of dancing, seeking places of instrumental music, seeking places of hand-clapping performances, seeking places with melodious sounds, seeking places where drums are played. These are the 6 dangers of indulgence in music. If a wealthy person or their offspring is addicted to such activities, their wealth will diminish day by day. Virtuous student, associating with bad friends has 6 harms. They deceive and manipulate. They delight in secrecy. They tempt others to harm. They scheme to seize others' wealth. They divert benefits to themselves. They expose others' faults. These are the 6 dangers of associating with bad friends. If a wealthy person or their offspring continues to associate with bad friends, their wealth will diminish day by day. Virtuous student, laziness has 6 faults: avoiding work even when wealthy, avoiding effort when poor, avoiding effort in cold weather, avoiding effort in hot weather, avoiding effort during daylight, avoiding effort at night. These are the 6 dangers of laziness. If a wealthy person or their offspring remains lazy, their wealth will diminish day by day. The 4 types of bad friends. The Buddha categorized bad friends into 4 types: those who give little and demand much for personal gain, those who are talkative and sweet-tongued but only make empty promises, flatterers who praise you up front but criticize later, support wrongdoing and oppose virtuous actions, friends who indulge in extravagance, alcohol, gambling, idle wanderings. The Buddha explained to virtuous student, the hypocritical type performs 4 actions, gives at first but takes back later, gives little but expects much, befriends out of fear, befriends for personal gain. The sweet-talking type performs 4 actions, agrees with good and bad equally, avoids you in times of trouble, hinders virtuous deeds, avoids responsibility in times of danger. The deceitful type performs 4 actions, lies about the past, lies about the future, lies about the present, punishes for even the smallest faults. The bad friend performs 4 actions, befriends you during drinking, befriends you during gambling, befriends you during indulgence, befriends you during singing and dancing. The 4 types of good friends. In contrast, the Buddha described 4 types of good friends worthy of close association. Those who prevent you from wrongdoing and encourage beneficial deeds, those with great compassion and love for all beings, those who offer help, those who are loyal and cooperative in all situations. The Buddha further taught virtuous student, the friend who prevents wrongdoing performs 4 actions that bring great benefit and protection, stops others from committing wrongful acts, teaches the path of righteousness, offers kind and compassionate guidance, points out the way to heavenly realms. The loving friend performs 4 actions, rejoices in your success, worries when you face harm, praises your virtues, prevents you from engaging in harmful speech. The helpful friend performs 4 actions, protects you from carelessness, prevents financial losses due to carelessness, shields you from fear, advises you privately. The cooperative friend performs 4 actions, is willing to sacrifice their life for you, does not hesitate to share their wealth, helps you overcome fear, advises you in private. Practicing the teachings of the Buddha. These teachings are intended for lay practitioners who wish to become true Buddhists. One must apply these principles in their daily life, first perfecting oneself, and then guiding others to practice as one has. Lay practitioners must uphold the 5 precepts they have vowed to observe for life. Proper practice of these precepts purifies the 3 karmas, body, speech, and mind. When the 3 karmas are purified, the practice aligns with the Buddha's teachings. The 5 precepts are as follows: do not kill, do not steal, do not engage in sexual misconduct, do not lie, do not consume intoxicating substances. Observing these precepts ensures the path to purity and true adherence to the Buddha's teachings. The 5 precepts and their relation to the 3 karmic actions of body, speech, and mind. The first 3 precepts, not killing, not stealing, and not engaging in sexual misconduct, pertain to bodily actions. The 4th precept, not lying, and the 5th precept, not consuming intoxicants, pertain to verbal actions, speech. It is important to note that when it comes to violating the precepts, the Buddha based his judgment on visible actions. Violations are determined by the observable forms of action, meaning that conclusions about violations are based on external evidence seen through bodily and verbal actions. Since the mind, thought, is intangible and invisible, the Buddha did not use it as a direct basis for determining violations, but only as the underlying force behind bodily and verbal transgressions. In terms of external phenomena, the Buddha concluded whether there was a violation or not based solely on the body and speech, whether they were pure or defiled. However, the physical and verbal transgressions originate from the impulses of the mind. The mind serves as the leader and master of all bodily and verbal actions. This aligns with the teaching in the Dhammapada, Chapter 1. All phenomena are led by the mind, ruled by the mind, created by the mind. If one speaks or acts with a polluted mind, suffering follows as surely as the wheel follows the hoof of the ox. All phenomena are led by the mind, ruled by the mind, created by the mind. If one speaks or acts with a pure mind, happiness follows as closely as a shadow that never leaves. The positive or negative consequences of our actions lead us to either suffering or peace, depending on the moral or immoral intentions behind those actions. As practitioners, we can choose whether to cultivate wholesome or unwholesome actions based on our decisions. Since our choices directly shape our present and future experiences, the Buddha provided guidance through the 5 fundamental precepts for lay practitioners. Following these precepts leads to peace and happiness in both the present and the future, whereas violating them results in suffering. The role of the 5 precepts in the 3 karmic actions. When analyzed in relation to the 3 karmic actions, body, speech, and mind, the 5 precepts emphasize that the body and speech are mere instruments that carry out the intentions of the mind. Without the influence and direction of the mind, the body and speech alone do not create karma. Therefore, the mind is the true master of all actions, while the body and speech are subordinate tools that follow its commands. However, when the body performs actions based on the commands of the mind, it becomes a direct agent of karma and bears the consequences of its deeds. Similarly, the mind remains responsible as the instigator of those actions. The body acts according to the mind's guidance, but once it carries out a deed, it becomes the primary agent of that action and must bear the corresponding consequences. Clear identification of good and bad actions. Every physical action we perform, whether good or bad, becomes evident through our deeds, allowing us to distinguish whether our actions are virtuous or immoral. Therefore, the Buddha used bodily actions as the basis for formulating the 5 precepts, born out of his boundless compassion for all beings. The purpose of the 5 precepts. The Buddha's intention was to ensure that we live a life of peace and happiness in both the present and the future. Hence, he taught that all our actions must be pure and free from defilement. By refraining from harmful actions and cultivating virtuous deeds, we can achieve a state of inner tranquility and liberation. The practice of avoiding evil and performing good involves the following. For the body, refrain from killing, stealing, and sexual misconduct. For speech, refrain from lying and consuming intoxicating substances. By adhering to these precepts, we protect ourselves from unwholesome actions and cultivate a life of purity and harmony. The benefits and harms of observing and violating the precepts. As previously mentioned, observing the precepts brings peace and happiness in the present life as well as in the future. Observing the precepts not only benefits the individual, but also creates harmony within the community and society as a whole. A. Benefits of observing the precepts for individuals and the community. The purpose of the precepts is to prevent individuals from committing harmful actions, restraining from evil. Engaging in harmful deeds nurtures greed, anger, and ignorance, the 3 poisons that lead to suffering and affliction in both the present and future across the realms of existence. These 3 poisons, greed, hatred, and delusion, compel the mind to form desires for possession. Whether driven by greed, anger, or delusion, the mind initiates actions of the body and speech, resulting in actions that harm others for selfish gain. Examples of bodily transgressions include killing others or living beings, stealing others, possessions through deceit, sexual misconduct that disrupts others' happiness. These actions create karma that will lead to suffering in either the near or distant future. The completion of a harmful action creates the seed of karma, karmic cause, that will eventually yield a corresponding karmic result of suffering. Similarly, verbal actions influenced by a defiled mind include harsh speech, offensive and cruel words, slander, stirring division by spreading lies and gossip, false speech, speaking untruths for selfish purposes, frivolous speech, exaggerations and fabrications that distort the truth. When a person speaks deceitfully or maliciously to satisfy their greed, anger, or delusion, they nurture these poisons through their speech, causing harm to others while creating suffering for themselves. The Buddha emphasized avoiding alcohol as well, as it dulls the mind, clouds judgment, and prevents one from distinguishing right from wrong. When intoxicated, a person loses self-control and may commit harmful deeds they would not do when sober. These actions are seeds of future suffering that perpetuate the cycle of birth and death. Therefore, the Buddha advised lay practitioners to refrain from killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying, and drinking alcohol. By observing these 5 precepts, one avoids nurturing greed, anger, and ignorance, thereby refraining from creating negative karma for oneself, individual karmic cause, and society, collective karmic cause. One avoids creating bad causes in the present, which leads to freedom from harmful karmic results in the future. A person who refrains from evil actions not only enjoys peace of mind, but also contributes to a harmonious and orderly society. When individuals avoid harming others, refrain from stealing, maintain purity in their relationships, speak truthfully, and avoid intoxicants, society becomes a peaceful and blissful place. When every member of society refrains from harmful actions, such as killing, stealing, deceit, and drunkenness, the community transforms into a paradise of peace and happiness. Positive practices beyond restraint. Observing the precepts is not limited to refraining from evil. Positive actions include not killing, releasing and protecting life, compassion for all beings; not stealing, practicing generosity, sharing and giving; not engaging in sexual misconduct, maintaining purity and fidelity; not lying, practicing honesty and integrity; not consuming intoxicants, honoring wisdom and maintaining a disciplined life. By both avoiding evil and actively doing good, individuals foster not only their own happiness, but also contribute to the well-being of others, ensuring peace and joy in the present and rebirth in heavenly realms. Avoiding negative karma in the present and future. When one refrains from creating negative karma through body, speech, and mind, one avoids suffering in the present and future. By abstaining from harmful actions, one also mitigates the effects of past negative karma until it gradually dissipates. When an individual continually practices virtue, their body, speech, and mind become purified. When the three actions of body, speech, and mind are free of defilement, the practice of the precepts is complete in both restraint, avoiding evil, and action, cultivating virtue. Observing the precepts fulfills both individual karmic causes and collective karmic causes. Individual karmic cause leads to inner peace and prevents future suffering. Collective karmic cause contributes to a harmonious, peaceful society. B. Harms of violating the precepts for individuals and the community. The consequences of violating the precepts are clear. When individuals act contrary to the 5 precepts taught by the Buddha, the harmful actions they create, individual karmic cause, lead to inevitable suffering for themselves and the community, collective karmic cause. If lay practitioners violate the precepts, their harmful actions will only intensify their greed, hatred, and delusion, strengthening their ego and increasing their ignorance. This results in perpetual conflict, resentment, and suffering. Ultimately, they will be trapped in the cycle of suffering and rebirth in the lower realms. Examples of harmful actions include murder and violence, theft and deceit, sexual misconduct that destroys relationships, lying to deceive others for personal gain, drunkenness that leads to reckless and harmful behavior. These actions not only cause immediate suffering for oneself and others, but also create karmic seeds that lead to suffering in future lives. When individuals in society engage in such actions, they create division, chaos, and misery, preventing peace and stability. Those who indulge in greed, hatred, and delusion become enslaved by their desires and perpetuate the cycle of karmic retribution. Observing the precepts is essential for both individual and collective well-being. By refraining from harmful actions and cultivating virtuous deeds, lay practitioners can purify their body, speech, and mind. In doing so, they create a foundation for peace, happiness, and liberation in the present and future. Conversely, violating the precepts results in suffering, conflict, and an endless cycle of karmic retribution. The Buddha's teachings guide us to choose virtue over vice, ensuring not only our own peace, but also contributing to a harmonious and blissful society.